out and enjoy the good sound of a nice beautiful afternoon at the 60th Annual Chicago Con. Good one. Oh, wow. Okay, oh man, dancers, you're looking good.
The spirits told the medicine man what plants to prepare into a tea for Wabanokwe's illness. And he was told that the woman needed to have a sacred healing dress. He instructed Wabanokwe's mother to make the dress at once. When the dress was finished, they put it on her, and the medicine man sang a song. As he was singing this song, Wabanokwe was held up by the ladies, and then as the song went on, she was able to dance on her own.
way, oh. First Nation community is in desperate need of help as COVID-19 spreads through the remote community. Of 480 residents, nearly half have tested positive for the virus. And the chief is now asking for help again as his community struggles with the strain the virus is placing on everyone.
I was tested positive. When was that? Yesterday. So, and there's quite a few people besides me, like babies, elders.
Why wait until the request came, given how dire it's been?
Well, I'll just say that we didn't wait. In fact, as I mentioned, we have a number of resources in place, both human resources and financial resources. Of course, as the outbreak continues, I think you heard the chief talk about the exhaustion of the community, and that's why we're working with the community right now and with the province of Ontario to make sure we deploy the right professionals.
And so when will the military, be there?
Well, very quickly. My expectation is that this request gets processed extremely quickly. I know officials have been meeting today, and hopefully we'll have news very quickly.
What do you say to the community right now? What is your message?
Well, my message to Bearskin Lake is to keep supporting one another to the best of your ability, to keep, obviously, spirits as high as possible, that Canada will be there for you, that, Ontario is obviously entering into this space with us, and that we're working all together to get through this. But we will have to continue to work together. We will have to continue to the best of our ability, keep people, each other safe. And I think that goes for, without saying, that this is a countrywide surge right now. So they're not alone in their fear and anxiety.
There are, as you know, additional First Nation communities in Ontario that are experiencing similar COVID-19 related emergencies. A number of them. Will you be sending, resources, aid there proactively to avoid seeing what we're playing out at Bearskin Lake?
Well, absolutely. Part of our response as a government has been to freely enable financial resources to communities. Oftentimes, communities know better than the federal government what's needed in what order and exactly how. But we continue to coordinate those emergency services with a variety of different First Nations communities and tribal councils. That work is ongoing. It's happening over the weekend to make sure that people are as prepared as possible. Listen, it isn't about money, though. It's also about health, human resources. So we can, we have the money to be able to support people for the supplies and the equipment that they need for essential ingredients like food and firewood, for charters to get things places. But it's the health, human resources and other kinds of human resources that are really tapped. And so, again, we're working very quickly with communities to understand where those crunch points are and to help enable that support as quickly as possible.
As I'm driving around, it's like a ghost town.
Sol Mamakwa is the local MPP. A few days ago, he toured the community and saw residents peering through windows asking if more help is coming.
I didn't see any boots on the ground.
The federal government didn't provide military support until Saturday, saying it was waiting on an official request from the province.
This box is quite heavy. It's over 400 pounds.
In the meantime, those watching from afar took action. Kenora resident Tanya Cameron is sending this woodcutter. She started a fundraising campaign and has already shipped over $19,000 worth of supplies.
I saw their pleas for things like grocery delivery to their homes, firewood, and I felt like I needed to help.
Wow. The chief spoke to Emergency Preparedness Minister Bill Blair today, asking for more support. Blair turned down our request for an interview.
The current situation is they have 187 positive cases, and out of the 120 homes situated on the First Nation, 57 of those are in quarantine, and they're still negotiating with the federal government on support. I'm not sure what the current numbers are going to be today and what kind of support is being sent, but I know that there's been a declaration from Bearskin Lake First Nation themselves for potential Army support, and I know that I read an article yesterday saying that the Army hadn't received that, but I know that Bearskin Lake First Nation did issue a press release declaring that and asking for military support.
When you give us those numbers, this is just in a matter of 8 days now, 187 positive cases in the community, and all of those homes were quarantined in effect. Just for people to understand, that's around half of the population affected by this right now, correct?
Correct. And you could imagine, if you put that into perspective, for example, in Toronto, just imagine in Toronto, which has a population of roughly 3 million people, what would happen if 1.5 million people in Toronto got sick with the Omicron or COVID? What would happen? What kind of outcry, what kind of response would there be from the federal and provincial government? I think there would be an emergency. I think things would happen quicker. It seems that Bearskin Lake, when they declared this an emergency, no one wanted to acknowledge that it was an emergency. So they sent in nurses. But currently, there's if you've been to Bearskin, you'll know that there's no hospital, there's no emergency services, there's no doctor on call. So should something happen, should an emergency occur, we're at the risk of loss of life. So at this point in time, Bearskin and his partners continue to ask the government to acknowledge at least that this is an emergency, a crisis that needs to be, action needs to be taken.
So again, this is a community very remote. One in which there are few resources, as you mentioned, none of the kind of hospital or medical resources that would be required to deal with some of this.
The real issue is they need boots on the ground. They do appreciate all the support they've been receiving from neighboring communities and of course, the funding announcement. But the problem is there's no boots on the ground. So that freight or that money or whatever comes into the First Nation, there's no one there to deliver those things. There's no one there to cut the wood because it's COVID, and the essential workers that usually do this for the First Nation are sick themselves. So they're at a breaking point, and they're basically begging for support and assistance, and boots on the ground is what they need today, or even
and
yesterday
that
or last
request
week.
into the Canadian Armed Forces. As you await that government help, federal and provincial, and the people power that you need, we were looking at some pictures. I want to bring them back because I'd love you to tell the stories, if you could, of how other First Nations have responded to Bearskin Lake First Nation needs. People from Sandy Lake, I know, from Pikangikum. I mean, these are incredible scenes of people showing up on snowmobile from far away. Can you tell me any more details about the kind of response people have coming up to help others in other neighboring First Nations?
Yeah, Big Trout Lake was the ones that drove in. It's a good, also a 3-hour drive on Skidoo, and you're talking minus 40, minus 50 weather. That's a tough drive if you've ever had to do that. And the neighboring communities, Weagamal, Sandy Lake, I'm not going to try and name them all. They did donation drives. There's people here in the city of Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay is about an hour and a half, hour and 45-minute flight. So there's all kinds of groups, all kinds of people sending in donations, sending in supplies. It's great to see that unity and that care for one First Nation that is struggling. And it just, that's one feel-good story to take from this, for sure.
in the beginning. My daughter had the worst of it, but I have to really keep an eye on her.
MP Charlie Angus calls the situation outrageous.
Is they're watching this community get hammered with Omicron, completely overrun, reaching out to the federal government and saying, we need some help here. And they're getting the runaround, they're getting these ridiculous responses. The latest I heard was, well, they didn't fill out the forms properly, or they didn't officially ask us.
But Angus says it is not enough. And if this were a major Canadian city, the military would have been there long ago.
You know, the mayor of Toronto called the army to come in and shovel the sidewalks for Torontonians so they could get to work, and the Canadian Army showed up. Meanwhile, we had a COVID crisis in Kitchenuhmaykoosib that we begged the Army and Minister Bill Blair for weeks and weeks and weeks to get help, and by the time they came in, it was completely, the community had been completely overrun. And in that time, the public had stepped up, and it's the same thing in Bearskin Lake.
It's been, I guess, 7 or 8 days since we declared an emergency here in our community. And at this point now, I think we're almost at the breaking point. I think people are exhausted, I guess, emotionally and physically.
The chief says his community shouldn't have to beg to get the help it needs.
So I think sometimes we tend to feel we were forgotten, that we don't matter.
The chief